Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the AEW Dynamite Duo Review. This week, a different duo, just like the blind tag tournament, beach break, wonderful, at Beach Bash, Night of Champions, belt majigger going on. I am so happy to be back. This is JVL, back from his sabbatical in the land of Malachi Black. I am joined by the one and only Mikey, who I have not seen in over 2 weeks. I'm very happy to have him here. Mikey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's early, but I'm doing great. Actually, you've been gone for 2 weeks, but realistically, it's been about a month for me. So it's like...
That's true. It feels like a month anyways. Look at all the stuff that I missed over 10 days. Literally like 18 pay-per-views in the span of a week. So we've got to jump back post pay-per-view AEW Dynamite today, which is post Blood and Guts, kind of the soft reset, the let's mop up the blood, clean up the guts, and stitch us back together, see if we can still work together. So, Mikey, I don't know about you. It was feeling like a letdown for the show a little bit, not to spoil it too much, but not a super big letdown. Some odds and ends that could have worked better, but honestly, not the worst after pay-per-view TV product that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, there was still a lot that I enjoyed about this, but this felt like a weird episode because since Blood and Guts kind of ended the chapter on Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite storyline for a little bit. I mean, we didn't get to the Elite were nowhere to be seen on this episode, and it looks like that we're getting like new storylines built, kind of, which I'm appreciative of. But then I'm figuring out, okay, are we building towards all in, all out, a mixture of both? Like, because we have 4 weeks till the Wembley show, and then 5 weeks until the Labor Day weekend pay-per-view. God, what happened to my time?
Both at once while competing with SummerSlam and a bunch of... So this is going to be kind of the thing going forward. The overall arc is, Tony, what are we doing here to set us up? You've got to keep the balls rolling on there because you've just had a minor pay-per-view. It's time to do it. So, Mikey, we're going to keep this to a tight 35, just like John and I do. We're going to keep it right there. Beat the clock in 35 minutes. Very, very hard. But in general, we'll go through these kind of match by match, see how we feel, and then we'll see where we are by the end of it. Sound good? Oh, I got a thumbs up. Mikey, I love having you here, and I'm going to hopefully tag you in this. This will be a good warm-up for our ROH review tomorrow, so I'm very happy for that anyways. But going into the beginning of the night, we had a match that was set up on Blood and Guts, which is amazing. It's continuity and storytelling. It's bringing things together. It's the international champion, Orange Cassidy, versus AR Fox. Darby Allin gets a video package promo talking about his relationship to AR Fox from the back end. And it seems like this has become the thing. Darby Allin does a promo every week on a new person from his past that's going to disappoint him and continue to. And that's kind of a spoiler for this, but basically, match goes in, and I have, knowing AR Fox from ROH, was really excited to see how him and Cassidy would work together. And honestly, this was my match of the night overall, hands down. I thought this was better than the finale. I thought this was better than most of the ones in the middle. The two of them, their styles work together. The shimmy spot where Orange Cassidy finally got his hands in the pockets and shimmied out of a neck grab was ridiculous. And overall, worked a lot of good things here with Cassidy being hurt, with AR Fox being really, really good at flipping and dipping and going all over the place. The Cassidy walking around the ring to avoid things and Fox chasing him and finally doing a backflip where he runs off the turnbuckle. My God, man, like just seriously. Overall, just so cool.
I thought this was a very strong opening. And of course, I love that in the AEW universe, wrestlers are like, hey, I want this match. Okay, sure. I mean, literally, that's literally how this got set up.
But it added stakes to it as well, which I love that they did that with that storyline. We'll get to that in a second. The thing I also love here is that for the finale, it was a roll-up. It was a quick roll-up to do it, which, doesn't give much away to either person. But I love that AEW is finally calling out what each pin is doing. So it's not just a roll-up win. It's not just the standard WWE schoolboy. Wheeler Yuta has the seatbelt pin that he does. This was a mousetrap pin, which I almost thought to myself, you could turn that into a mousetrap bomb and be amazing into a pinning combination. That's a whole different story. But having that be more technically involved so that as a wrestling fan, you're in on, these are actual moves. It's not just someone cheaply winning something. Like they're actually performing a maneuver that's different. Really, really good that way. But Orange Cassidy picks up the victory, which he still should be doing. He's defended this now 27 times. He is the most defending champion in AEW. Again, my match of the night, Loved it to death. And then we get to the post match.
Oh boy. Okay. So this post, we'll call it fascinated is the correct term that I will be using here. I am intrigued with this because, after the match, Orange Cassidy does his thing. I mean, him and AR Fox are cool. So he puts the sunglasses on AR Fox. The crowd begins to cheer. And then AR Fox slowly takes off the glasses. And then he breaks them in half. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And then, bam, like, just a slug to Orange Cassidy's face out of nowhere. I'm like, okay. I'm like, color me intrigued now.
Now, I will say this from a performing point of view, and the professor will back me up on this. Watching AR Fox's face, it seemed like the performer wasn't totally invested in it as well, which was a choice I think they were going for, but it was a little off-putting when it happened. That's why it was a little strange. But then you had Darby Allin come out, and the whole interchange with them where, like, I put my name on the line for you. I did this. That's the storyline setting up where, again, someone has disappointed Darby Allin in his life. His friends are just not doing well. Will Darby turn heel now that he's got people around him that he's going to the mat for, and they're doing all these bad things? What's going to happen? Loved that. And then the camera held on Orange Cassidy for a little too long because I think Jon Moxley took forever to get out of the crowd. But he comes in and gives a Death Rider to Orange Cassidy in response to something that happened on ROH. They're tying ROH in, and they're beating people up for it. So overall, first big segment of the night, hit you with a bang, starts it off right. I was invested, Mikey. And I haven't, I was really happy to have that.
Yeah, I thought this was the match itself was a strong opener. Happy to see that Orange Cassidy being the wrestler and backstage producer, according to reports now, as he is still defending this title. 27 successful title defenses with this championship. I am interested to see if we're setting up Mox versus Orange for this title at some point, which I would. Yeah. If you couldn't. Yeah.
In Wembley.
God.
Oh, my God. So we had that happen. We cut backstage to a pre-cut promo from the Blackpool Combat Club. Okay. Putting my professor hat on here. Claudio, love you, dear. Love you so much. And we know you're trying, but the gobbledygook you're trying to say, you're talking in circles and it's not making sense. And it says something when they make you deliver it, and Wheeler Yuta's got to be quiet. He's even a worse promo apparently than Claudio Castagnoli. I think Yuta could actually deliver it a lot better. And the reason this was so glaring, because, I've seen Claudio and ROH give stuff in, and it's been really good. And they're talking about how Blackpool Combat Club is coming for Pac, because Pac, got in their way, and like also Orange Cassidy, all these other things. They're going to play with fire and all that good stuff. But what got me was when Moxley came in to finish the promo, he is so smooth and so natural that it really shines a light on how much Claudio cannot give a promo. So that to me was kind of baffling. And I know you wanted to get that point across and you wanted to be a cool walk-in like that, but you got Yuta basically sticking his chin out going, and you got Claudio trying to hold down the fort. It's too up and down. You got to pick a lane. And I think they need to let Claudio, instead of being this tough guy like Moxley is, give him some humor, give him some of that, play it off as the kind of bombastic heel. I laugh at you and I'll talk about this. It's an Uno reverse. That's what I do. Let him do a dad joke or two.
Yes.
Still be a heel, but let him be him, because he's not doing well in this tough badass guy thing. He's not. He is a badass, but
yeah, it's really hard because Mox, and I don't want to say that Wheeler and Claudio can't do promos. They just can't do them very well. And Mox is just naturally charismatic. He has, for the unforeseeable future, Mox is going to have to be carrying these promos a little bit because, unfortunately, Danielson's out a lot longer than we expected him to be. But
Well, I feel like you could bring Danielson back, though.
Yeah.
Either videotapes or anything else. He can still talk. It's not like he broke his larynx, but give that Claudio needs a mouthpiece, and he's not getting a lot of time to do better stuff on ROH because he's between both brands. I think that's hurting him overall as a wrestler, and he's not being featured enough in either way to get a following behind him to be okay with this. So there's got to be a change there.
I know. We'll talk more about it in our Ring of Honor because I have a couple of things, because that match between him and Pac wasn't even supposed to happen. Because it wasn't even supposed to be Claudio versus Briscoe either. The original plan was Kingston Claudio too, But Kingston is currently living his life in Japan right now.
Big props to Kingston, and we'll talk about that at ROH.
Yep.
But I'm so happy for him. But had that promo, cut then to more promos. So we had the pre-taped ones that were shown on Collision, I believe, between the MJF and the Adam Cole one, which further give me this. I agree with most of the pundits. They've got to call an audible on this and keep this will they, won't they turn on each other stuff going for a while. And I'm sorry, I love FTR. FTR are amazing. They need to lose the titles in Wembley to these guys.
For sure. But let's backpedal a little bit, because before that happened, we still had a promo, except this one was in ring, and then this is where Jack Perry comes out.
I skipped over this on purpose.
Oh,
I
okay.
skipped over this completely on purpose. Not because I don't like what's the people involved. I mean, but yeah, no, you're right. I was trying to get past it, Mikey. I was trying not to bring down the energy, because this is what this did. This entire promo just went.
This is what
after the hook video.
This is what happens when you have me step in, because I will keep you on track whether you want to or not. We don't have to spend too much.
Type 35. I'm trying to keep it to a type. No.
So
set up for next week.
Yeah, it's set up for next week, and I have to eat crow because I hated this feud from the moment it began. I still hated it, and I wasn't too sure on Jack Perry. God, that's gonna be a pain in the butt to not have to say Jungle Boy, but I'm actually intrigued, funny enough, and I'm like, I don't know. I want to, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm bringing the professor back next week. This is ridiculous, Mikey. Like,
that's fine.
I'm sorry, I disagree. Jack Perry is trying so hard to be a badass, and he's not. And he's complaining about this title that's not recognized, and he's starting this is lazy writing to me. It's not that I don't enjoy Jerry Lynn being part of this. I'm very intrigued to see what they're going to allow him to do, because he has been out of wrestling for quite a while, and I know he can still kind of go.
Mm-hmm.
He's older. Taz can't get in there. Otherwise, it would be Taz in that spot beating the crap out of him. But you're going to an ECW legend to get a heel over. I didn't know that Vince McMahon and Vince Russo were writing AEW. This is the exact thing that WWE has been doing for the last 20 years. When they don't know what to do with somebody, they stick a legend in there to supposedly give him some clout. And I feel like AEW is going to do it where they're going to put the heel over instead of making the legend look good, but it's lazy. Like, you don't have enough trust in your process or your heel to do things around it. You took away Hook's undefeated streak, so that's a big miss. And now you've got no one to fight him for, because it's a title that nobody wants and really was just kind of an albatross around anybody who carries its neck. Put him in a title feud. Put him somewhere else. Literally, the easiest booking is have him interfere with actual competitors who are champions and say, I'm the better champion, and give the title a rub and get him just being that asshole who's trying to basically get his licks in, instead of being the chicken heel who is standing there in his sunglasses, not doing much.
We're far enough in the recording, you can curse.
I know that. I'm just trying to keep us being monetized. It's ridiculous, and it's just not worthwhile. And this is why I wanted to skip it. It brought out Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn, after they have Jack Perry beating down ECW folks and saying it's a horrible company. It's just lazy, and I'm not intrigued, and I disagree. I want this to be done. I want him to move on to his next thing and just be Jack Perry, whoever Jack Perry is going to be. Join back up with Luchasaurus and be the evil,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying. I was like, just put him back with heel Christian Cage and Luchasaurus and let them be an evil little faction.
or let him steal him back from Christian Cage and have that. But that also means everyone's spinning their wheels, and I'm sad for Luchasaurus because I actually enjoy him as a wrestler, and he hasn't wrestled once in a very long time. But that's beside the point. That was that promo. I'm done with it. They've set up not a match, but a face-to-face for next week, even though it kind of was a match. We'll see what happens on Dynamite next week. I don't know how far Jerry Lynn's going to go, but this was not needed. This literally was like a hard gear change that was not at all needed in the entire thing.
All right. Well, I mean, we somewhat got a palate cleanser because we did get a match before MJF and Adam Cole and generic white guy number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
We had
number 5 who's carrying Cross.
Yes. We had Pac taking on Gravity. Lord have
my God. Okay, I just got to start with I love they called out what he was called in NXT.
Yes.
I love that. And then the minute they do that, all Pac is saying in the ring is, "Don't you forget me? Don't you forget me?" Like, just like, remember me in his Geordie accent. I'm like, I love this, but I also hate it because it's so repetitive and it's so campy. But what a match!
It was so fun. I mean,
oh
I was taught something new when I watched Death Before Dishonor. I did not know that Gravity was the brother of Bandito. That is something I now know, and now I can see. And this was a fun match. God,
it was amazing.
Please give
Gravity,
me more.
By the way, is fearless. He's doing more of the full pike position dives, which they actually
baby.
Like, I love that too. Pac was all over the place. I feel like they could have gone a little farther with the physicality on it. It was a little bit, backed off a bit and more storyline driven, which is just because of the fact that the guy's name is Gravity and he was the man that Gravity forgot. But this is what got me. You've got Pac there. You had a fiery promo from Claudio and from Moxley. Nobody touched Pac. They're not there to beat him up afterwards. Like, is it floundering?
This has been my biggest issue because, look, I understand, like, you're trying not to cross the streams, metaphorically speaking, here between your AEW and Ring of Honor, but the world saw Claudio just beat Pac's ass at Death Before Dishonor. But then, like, even before all this, like, the blood and guts incident that happened, and then Claudio doesn't want to come out and get even, or Blackpool Combat Club doesn't want to get even against. Well, this also can apply to Konosuke Takeshita too, because both of them walked out of that match, which essentially is what gave Blackpool Combat Club the disadvantage and ultimately made them lose because it became a 3-on-5.
I honestly think they're waiting with Takeshita till they set up whatever this new Don Callis family is to have the group-on-group action. It also gives Danielson time to get back to, like, chastise them for bringing in mercenaries when you should have brought somebody else in. My thing is, though, on the same wavelength, Mikey, they didn't, no crossing streams. They brought it up on Dynamite TV in a promo in the same show. Like, I can understand if it's like week to week and they don't have it that way, but when you bring it up on the show and it's to bring up the tried and true theater thing, it's Chekhov's gun. You have a gun on a mantelpiece in Act 1. It needs to be used in some sort of fashion by the end of the play. This set something up and also didn't set up anything farther down the road. It just left it there. And then you place the gun in the ring and it did a match and now nothing's happening. So that was weird to me. Can I also ask another question? And I know we're going off the rails on this, as per usual, but what I think I was right in seeing this, and I was watching it very late last night. Did every match have to go picture in picture every time? It was every match on the card.
Let me tell you, it's starting to become more prevalent within the last couple of weeks, not just in AEW, but across all of the wrestling shows that we're covering here. Like, everyone's doing more picture in picture. I'm like, and let me give a little preview. So obviously, because I was gone all last week, so I had to watch Blood and Guts when I came back. So as I was puking my guts out, I was catching up on all my wrestling over the weekend, including the Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
It's great.
Let me tell you, picture in picture is such a travesty because when you watch it back via, like, because
BT Sport.
Well, BT Sport or YouTube TV. So when I'm watching the replay, the picture in picture gets cut out and then it just jumps into, like, when they come back. And let me tell you, watching Blood and Guts without the picture in picture was horrifying because there was just chunks of the match that were missing. And it's like an amateur film student took the whole entire Blood and Guts match and spliced it and diced it in ways that it wasn't supposed to happen.
So I got lucky with this because I also have been I've actually invested, I think, in BT Sport or finding where I can find the feed from it. They continue the commentary. BT Sport doesn't have that part of it. It's like a pay-per-view. So the commentators still commentate over whatever would be in the little corner is full screen. So I've watched the matches and it's so fun to hear when they know they're off American broadcast and they start to just really, like, there's parts there where they're joking with each other and they know they can get away with it, but they also know they're on the air. And you hear, like, other things. It's so much more fun. And I like it when I can find a feed of that to rewatch the match with it. But I'll agree with you. It seems like it's more prevalent. But this show specifically, I think where the promos sat, they had to do it in every match. And it was just like, at this point, I don't like that. Like, give your matches room to breathe. Even the Taya Valkyrie Britt Baker one from later on had it, and that wasn't that long. Like, I appreciate that it's there, having grown up in the 90s where you go to commercial and come back, it was pre-taped and you wouldn't know what happened. But literally, and I appreciate being able to see things, and it makes the wrestlers more like, it's not just rest holds the whole time anymore, but it's still, you got to have diversity in it. And AEW, you're walking down that road of WWE and you're not supposed to. But my God, so it just, Pac, Gravity overall, really good match. I want to see them do it again. I want to see them even, like, if you can get Bandito and Yehuda Vikingo versus the Death Triangle, that would be an insane match right there. Seeing all of those guys go after each other.
I'm so excited. El Hijo is going to be on Collision, so that's going to be fun.
It will be. It will be.
All right, now let's talk about the best buddy cop movie to ever happen.
Oh, I jumped all these. So yes, we have MJF and Adam Cole Bebe giving a promo to Renee, and Renee is doing amazing work, going back and forth as quick as possible. MJF giving a fiery babyface rock-ass promo, cutting Cole off at the same time. He tears into both Dax and Cash. I love the line of, like, get him off CM Punk's jockstrap.
I know. I was like, damn.
It's the other side. Damn. Going back and forth. So good stuff, but also setting it up like there's still tension there. And Adam Cole stepping in to be like, whether this is genuine or not, he's saying, you're becoming one of my best friends. I love this tension. Keep it going. And then MJF kind of coyly saying, I'll give you a title shot. And Cole, you can see it in his eyes, like, this is what I wanted. But also, is it really there? Was like, oh, but I don't need it, but I love it. I want them to win the titles. I want this to go on for another 6 months. I could watch the buddy cop the whole time and see that thing seething. And generic white guy number 2 comes in and gets jealous and tries to get on them and, like, be the voice of reason. And Adam Cole shuts him down. Just give me more of this. Every bit of this.
So, right. So, okay. So I will admit, I wasn't sure what we were in store for with the blind eliminator tag when we initially got it announced. I was like, okay, so somebody's gonna be facing FTR. Don't get me wrong, I love my FTR boys. They are one of the best tag teams of this current iteration of wrestling. It is, God, their match against Bullet Club Gold Collision was such a thing of beauty to watch. But I am okay with FTR losing the titles here if that means we get more MJF and Adam Cole, baby. And I will be the one to admit that mixed theme song, as cheesy as it was, is kind of fire.
Oh my God.
God, during Blood and Guts, I was laughing my ass off. And then the fact that I was like, that dance off, by the way, too, was a thing of beauty.
And him yelling, it's a mashup. It's a mashup. Like, they are going down that road and just leaning into, I love Max leaning into the campiness and the carniness of wrestling, and he's getting a double clothesline over, and it's so fun. And as a fan of absurdist comedy and, like, taking things to the cleaners, but also looking at the fundamentals, chef's kiss, love it to death.
And on top of that, too, it makes me as a viewer be more okay with the fact that I'm not seeing MJF defend that AEW championship, because he's involved in the tag team storyline with Adam Cole. And at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about your men's main champion, if we want to call it, not defending the title. And then everything that we've gotten so far, I was like, you know what? I take back what I said. I'm okay with MJF not defending this title if it means we get more of this.
There's a weird part of me that wants to see them win the tag titles. Cole wins the match against MJF for the belt, and then they start trading the belt back and forth with themselves to defend the tag titles. So they're progressively, like, who's the better champion? They're like, it's the best of 7 series, whatever it needs to be, but they still have to go and, like, it sets it up like for Full Gear or something, where they have to defend the tag titles at the beginning of the show and then go to do their match at the end of the show. So they're tired. They don't want to, like, get too damaged, but they want to damage their other. So, like, do they help each other out when they're getting in, like, a stretch or something? But they want to keep it. There's so many places they could go with it. So hands down good. The FTR promo afterwards, which was pre-taped, was standard FTR promo. Not the best from them, but not the worst. I don't think we needed to have that as well in the show.
Right. Promo. But I'm excited for this match on Saturday.
It's gonna be good. I cannot wait.
God, give me like
Whew.
30. Give me 30 minutes, and literally that can. After the FTR promo, that pretty much covered the first hour, which was really weird for AEW standards. I was like, oh, okay. The first hour was filled with vignettes and promos and everything. I was like,
And picture in picture.
and picture in picture, or if you saw the replay on YouTube TV, that doesn't exist. But so the International Championship was your match of the night, and I thought it was good. It was a close second for me, but maybe because I'm weird. But this next match was my match of the night. We got Darby versus Swerve too. I think it's because anytime Swerve's involved, I'm just clapping along. I'm like, damn, you got wasted in WWE.
Oh, yeah. While the first match was my match of the night, this was my moment of the night for this one, was the Avalanche DVD.
Oh my God.
Apron.
Oh
Darby
my.
Allin, my God, man, you're going to be in a wheelchair in 2 years. Like, that looked nasty as hell. And Swerve landed on his tailbone. Like, oh my God.
That hurt
The
me.
hardest part of the ring.
And then Darby jumping over the steps. Prior to that, Darby jumping over the steps, and then Swerve jumping off and doing the swerve kick, and just how violent it looked and sounded with cameraman. Good job for catching that.
That kick, like, it just came out of nowhere, and it was just so fluid. Like, you're right, these two worked really well together for that part. Prince Nana being there and being a jackass. Nick
Wayne's facial expressions was me the entire time during this match. I'm like,
so good, and like, back and forth. These two know how to fight each other. It seems like Swerve and Darby are going to be at each other for the rest of the time. I will kick back to, where's Keith Lee? You haven't finished that story?
That's what I want to know. I thought we were getting...
did a great little bit for that, which I won't copy, but like, it's just like, okay, I know you want to move along this thing, and it's a great storyline to go. Is Keith Lee showing up in this storyline? Is he... I don't get it, but in the end, Swerve ends up winning with his I forget what the hell it's called right now. But it's the whatever driver gets down and pins Darby 1, 2, 3 because Darby was pulled out of the ring before he could win the match.
So here's the problem. So this is not necessarily a problem, but I'm like, commentary, I know you're gonna be like, who is that? I'm like, bro, the cargo pants gave it away.
Yeah, and the fanny pack.
Like there should have been a change in an outfit, or like put on some sweatpants, like it would have been fine. Own
it without a hoodie on, like, you know who this is.
I'm glad. I will say I am kind of glad it wasn't a black hoodie, because I'm tired of the black hoodie like trope. It's like, oh my gosh, who's under the black hoodie? Nah, this one was blue, so that was cool.
That was cool.
You alluded to it earlier, where AR Fox looked like he wasn't really invested, like not invested, but he wasn't too sure about the heel turn at the beginning during his match with Orange Cassidy. After that, this one solidified it for me as a viewer. I'm like, okay, he seems to be more into it now at this venture. And I will say, AR Fox and Swerve being part of the same faction just makes me, like, all the possibilities are just making me so excited.
I'm with you on that one. I'm also worried the Mogul Embassy is getting humongous.
Right, because it's Swerve, AR, and then you have your Ring of Honor. Yep.
And you have Brian Cage.
Yep.
But my thing is, the joke in my head that came up was, so Swerve's deal in AEW is he's basically turning all of Darby's friends against them and then collecting them like Pokemon.
That's in the words of Spider-Punk, it's a metaphor for capitalism.
It's got to be. I'm waiting for the Nick Wayne turn, where Nick Wayne joins the Mogul Embassy.
Gosh, that would be crazy. Well, see, I think that might happen eventually, but I know Nick is going to be kind of busy a little bit now that he's part of the Super Juniors tournament. I'm so excited.
Right.
God, this is going to be so great. But that's for a different story. But yeah, so I mean, AR Fox laid out the Mogul Embassy with Swerve and AR. They laid out both Darby after the match, and then they also AR laid out Nick with the skateboard.
Nick Wayne selling, my God, like, great on you, kid. You did a good job there.
So I would be excited to be like, oh, Nick Wayne got injured. He's not clear. Pair Darby and Keith if you want to bring Keith into this, and you can still make that connection with Swerve. I don't know. I'm glad to see this is a new feud happening, because Darby and Swerve have faced each other before. But now you're throwing in Nick, and you're throwing in Mogul Embassy, Prince Nana, AR Fox. Like, I'm just happy I'm not going to lie. as much as I enjoyed Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite for the last couple months, it's nice to have different stories.
It is. And I also love that it spans 2 shows without like calling it out to each other because the group is in both parts of it. I feel like building out of this, there's going to be something with Keith Lee versus Brian Cage. They have to have big meat slapping man meat thing, which will happen at some point. But that was that part of the show. And then we move on to
the breakup, or possibly question mark, the JAS
Possibly?
breaking up, which by the
also
shout out to
Ty. Congratulations, Ty Mello. Like, glad to see you there, and you were very pregnant. But
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, show that baby bump, girl. I'm proud of you.
Easily. This was both great and terrible because we skipped over that Don Callis had done a promo with Jericho earlier in the night,
setting up
where they put up with this painting, this homoerotic painting of like the three of them.
Me and Adolfo have been talking about that on Rampage a little bit, and it's so homoerotic. We don't know how to feel about this whole thing. And then the Konosuke Takeshita's entrance too. I'm just like, I was like, is there something we should know, Don Callis? Like, it's okay. It's 2023.
It is. But so this painting was given to him, and Don's like, I have the perfect place to put it. Jericho, the rest of the society except for Jake Hager and Sammy and Daniel are there. But by the way, they set up the tag match between Takeshita and Jericho
versus Sammy
versus Sammy. There for next week, which is going to be also insane.
Oh gosh!
But the JAS go into the locker room. They see this painting and they have an intervention. The rest of them finally get their say, including Daddy Magic Matt Menard and Angelo, who was usually the goofiest one, had his like moment of like, you need to make a choice.
Seriously, I was like, there's something wrong if he's the one who has to be the voice of reason.
And then the promo was let down.
Ah, man. I was so
disappointed. Mello did a decent job. The 2 guys did great. They were doing it. I love you, Anna Jay. You're actually a lot better than people give you credit for, but you're not comfortable in speaking that way. And watching her as an actor, every time she was unsure about what her line was, she backed up from Jericho and she would like dance around. She had happy feet. And that takes the power away from what you're trying to be up in his face and say, this is a bad thing. But if you're dancing and not, it took me out of it. And she didn't know what she was doing. And I feel like she needed like 2 more runs at this to be able to get it right. And it was pre-taped. She could have, but they left that cut in. And I'm sorry, Anna Jay, you need some promo work, especially like, in the ring, you can walk, but if you're doing this pre-taped and you're setting it up that way and you're in those clicky fucking heels on concrete, we hear you moving. It's what it is.
Right. This breakup storyline is interesting to see. I'm interested to see where it goes next. I mean, Sammy and Guevara and Garcia are losing next week, in my opinion. So,
oh yeah.
Now, the question will be, are they going to lose cleanly, or is Don Callis going to get on his bullshit?
Don Callis, I fully expect is going to be on his bullshit. But then Sammy and Danny are going to blame each other for not catching it.
Nah. By the way,
Daniel Garcia's going to dance at him, and like it's going to be terrible.
By the way, I just want to shout out to Blood and Guts. Daniel Garcia dancing the ref away was like the most iconic thing I have seen in a while in my wrestling.
So good.
And by the way, him doing it against somebody as serious as Shibata, it was so funny to watch. Anyways, so will they, won't they break up? We shall continue to follow this developing storyline.
I am willing to. I'll speculate on this later on another podcast. But just who is going to be part of this Don Callis family? Because now you've got a lot of options that you can play with and like pull people up from. I think it's a good move. Put Jericho in there as the older statesman. Someone had put out a video recently where they're saying Goldberg should be part of it and just throw that whole thing in the ringer there, like because AEW fans would hate Goldberg so much for being there, and you have him lose 2 people with the JAS, like it's a pop for the pop's sake.
No, I forbid it. Do not put that out in the universe.
It's already out there. I think Wrestle Talk was the ones that did a video on it. So no, it might have been Cultaholic. One of the guys did a video on it, and it was just like, oh no,
damn it, you guys, my British wrestling boys, why would you do this to us? Anyways,
I don't know.
Do we want? Yeah, we have to talk about this women's match.
No, I'm going to because I'm sorry, Mikey. I don't want to break this down, but I have to introduce a new segment to our show.
Please do, because I have feelings as well.
Mikey, we're calling this, and I credit you for this. We're calling this the TK Accountability Corner. So, Tony,
TK Corner.
Come here. No, right here, right next to me here. Okay. What the fuck are you doing with the fucking women's division? Literally. You book one match on a 2-hour show, and you run into this whole thing with, my God, just you can't keep a storyline going. Last week, it was a squash match. You gave them less than 3 minutes. This week, you set up a match which could have benefited both people, and there was no build to it. And the finish, I don't believe, was built on the problems that were happening with the actual performers. This was your booking. Literally, what are you thinking with this? To go into detail on the match, Britt Baker is dealing with a back issue, which she lambasted Thunder Rosa for having all that way through. So she's working through it, and I don't think it's the best thing for her either. It showed in this match. Taya Valkyrie, who needs a win, comes in and is working weirdly slow, and I think was taking care of Britt, but in general was not involved in it. And this was I don't like to use it was a botch fest. Between the missed, I think honestly, the Road to Valhalla that wasn't hit but was hit, and then Taya, being the veteran she is, moved into a punching combination. That was either a back injury or Taya went home too early. And on top of that, the two of them just couldn't get on sync. So by the end of it, while the counter from the Road to Valhalla into the lockjaw was fun, this didn't need to happen. You're protecting Britt, which I understand because you're waiting for Jamie Hayter to be back, but she's injured. Taya needs a victory of some sort, and now you've driven her farther down the card, and you're making her look like she can't move in the ring. She's looked slow the last 4 matches. But Tony, this is where the accountability comes in. Look me in the eyes. When you book one women's match on the damn show, you run this risk. Because God forbid something happens, someone gets injured, something's wrong, or the chemistry isn't right, you can't make it up, and you make your entire division look bad. You had so many pre-tape promos and things that were from the week before on this show that could have been cut to give a 5-minute match to an undercard or your TBS champion or somebody. And you had picture-in-picture on matches that didn't need to go that long, including this match. Where is the priority, Tony? I know you've got a glut of amazing wrestlers, and I know you can do good wrestling matches with women's matches from ROH because you have at least 3 on those shows every week. I watch them. Where is it on Dynamite and Collision? You can't keep it being one, and you need to lean into the storylines. I realize your top champions are either injured or in a faction, but you have so many other people you can bring up and do short matches, angles. Take a promo away from FTR and put a women's promo in there. What is wrong? I literally, you had the sign in your shot for this. Fix this before Wembley. It's been almost 200 episodes, and they have proven in it with the lights out matches, the blood and guts matches, every bit the street fights. They can do it, if not as good, better than half of your male roster. I'm not asking for a women's promotion, Tony. I'm asking for accountability and a chance for these amazing performers to shine. And I'm getting sick and tired of waiting for it. I'm deadly serious on this. This needs to change, or you are going to lose a lot of your audience that is not a bunch of idiots who think that women can't wrestle. They're vocal, but the numbers are going to show. Do better than WWE, do better than Impact, which is a thing to say. You have the talent. Use it. And this has been TK's Accountability Corner with JVL.
And let the Church of Women's Wrestling say amen. So,
a white guy with long hair. I'm sorry I have to do that, but I want to use my platform for this. That boggles my fucking mind.
So JBL hit on pretty much everything that I was going to say, but let me give my small little perspective on it.
No, it's not small. You give your perspective.
So here's my perspective, and this is just so JBL has been away on vacation, so I didn't get a chance to send him this, but I saw this video that someone actually took the time to count the amount of minutes that there was women's wrestling from this past week across all the brands. And when you add up the 8-9 weekly TV shows, the total amount of running time for women's wrestling, not promos, but women's wrestling, was a measly 44 minutes out of total out of 8 to 9 shows. And
now, did they delve into how many performers were in that? Different performers.
They did not. But because I did that on my own, the video would have been cool if they did it, but I did it on my own. So here's the thing, and this is just we're going to focus on AEW because I'm going to use Impact as an example. Yes, as the sole Impact, reviewer here, I will forever and a day stand behind this statement. Yes, Impact only had 4 minutes of women's wrestling, but it's weirdly to say that's an anomaly because the Knockouts division over on Impact, in my opinion, and I will forever stand by the statement, is the best booked women's division across all of the major brands on television right now. And I don't care, WWE fans, AEW fans can come for me, but let me explain something to you. If you go and watch my Impact reviews, I'm always praising that there are multiple women's matches, multiple women's storylines, even multiple women's promos. Shit, there have been times where the whole episode has been dedicated to nothing but the Knockouts division, and it doesn't need to be a specialty show. It's just a weekly occurrence. You also have women fighting men over in Impact. Let's get into that. And I say this because you have the Knockouts division is very well booked, but I will also admit there's not a lot of women in Impact because it's such a smaller promotion. But the women they have, all of them are being used. Whether it be Deanna and Trinity in the main championship, you have a women's faction of Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans with their eye candy Jay Vidal taking on the Death Dolls and Jody Threat. You have this weird kinky tag team storyline going on between the Coven and Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly, which, by the way, those 2 women can do anything they want with me. Hey,
We will talk about them with Impact, but yes.
But the point is, I just mentioned 3 women's storylines that are going on, whether they are involved with the title or not, and they all have had matches across the pay-per-views and the weekly TV shows. And you mean to tell me, Tony Khan, you have such a big women's roster. Britt, Taya, Tony, Ruby, Saraya,
Sky Blue,
who has become one of my favorites. I mean, Jade's taking time off TV, but Chris, Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir,
Marina freaking Shafir,
Riho,
Hikaru Shida, you have Emi Sakura still on your books, and then you've got Jamie Hayter who's out, you've got Saraya who's injured, you've got Tony Storm, you've got.
I know you also I know you want to Tony. I know you want to keep the women not cross-section, but let me tell you, if you need to, pull Willow. You have Athena who can just come and kill some women if need be, like she has been. You have Trish Adora,
Diamante, Layla Hirsch.
Now that legit Layla Hirsch is back, you guys.
And that's the thing, is that ROH proves it works too, because there were 3 matches last week. Not even that, the week before, 3 women's matches, and one of them was, yes, the Kingdom and Layla Hirsch versus Trish Adora and the Infantry, but they're involved. They're doing it. You can do it, and Impact for you, Mikey, on those videos. If you look at the average of that for 44 minutes, the thumb is on the scale from Impact. That's what's holding it up. And I'm saying for the performance stuff, you look at WWE, it's Becky and Trish and Zoe, and it's on occasion Bailey or at least Asuka and Charlotte and Bianca, and that's it. They're only using 6 performers in all their time there, and they have much more as well. People are injured, that happens, but this is what I'm getting at, is that while we won't have a real promotion of just women's wrestling, which they should have here overall, it works with Stardom, it could work here. Tony has an opportunity and has proven he can do it. Do it on the main shows. Don't do it on ROH. Do it on the main shows.
Please, because Tony Khan, you have said it before in scrums and interviews yourself that fans want to see women's wrestling, and me and JBL here might be 2 of those wrestling fans, but I firmly intend that we here at the Bi-Conics, all of us love women's wrestling. And we're so passionate about it because they end up having some of the best matches of all times. And I have said it before in the past during our podcast on these reviews. Some of my favorite matches that always end up happening tend to be the women's matches because they just go out. They used to. I'm just a big fan. Women's wrestling needs to be seen and heard, and it needs to be, especially for Dynamite and Collision, and even to a certain extent, Rampage, you need to have more than just one women's match. And that's the only time you see the women's. I want, like, come on. Even if it is like a 5-minute match, give me like quick Joshi wrestling. Like, you have so many good Japanese wrestlers. But
use the 5-minute match to set up a storyline.
Exactly.
Have an interference, have an injury angle. You have the time. You're using it wrong. And I'll say this also as the father of a 5-year-old daughter who watches this with me on occasion, not just AEW, but WWE and everything else. She gets most excited when she's represented on TV, and she's more apt to want to watch, as her and her friends call her, the lip girl, Bianca Belair, because the kisses, and Becky and all of them, because they're on bigger stages and showing off, than they are to sit down and watch Dynamite with me or watch Collision or watch Rampage. Because she's actually tuned in with me and watching Ring of Honor and loves watching Athena work right now. And she loves Diamante. And she loves it. Layla Hirsch is her size, which I'm sorry, it's a sizes thing, but 5-year-old and Layla Hirsch, they're about the same size. She loves that she's represented. She wants to be a fan. And I bought her the shirts and I've gotten her that thing. This is going way off the rails and we are getting into this. But honestly,
it's a
I
conversation
can't
that
support
needs
as much.
to happen.
It is, and it's becoming more and more apt. We're not the only ones talking about this. Wrestling media right now, since that sign got on TV, has been going at him. I hope something changes. Because I want my daughter to be a wrestling fan and to enjoy both male and female wrestling. And whether she wants to go into it or not, whether she wants anything else, it is a form of entertainment we can share. And I want to share with her that she is as valid in that realm as any of my friends here, as any of us Bi-Conics. She is represented. She is part of this. And I'm not seeing that in my favorite promotion.
Nope. And here's hoping that as we build towards All In, All Out, and even Grand Slam, which is happening at the end of September.
Mother of God.
Listen, Grand Slam is what I call like the end of AEW summer season. So Tony Khan, between now and Grand Slam, you have 3 checkpoints and you have about, let's say about 8 to 10 weeks. By the end of Grand Slam, I'm wanting to hope to look back on this and be like, you know what? We had our feelings, but there are steps that have been taken to improve it. But Tony, the ball is in your court, my friend. Please do not ignore the wrestling fandom, because as quickly as they have come to support you, we also are very aware they will be quick to turn on you if things do not change. And I don't want that for you, Tony.
You're not an upstart promotion anymore. You have 200 episodes under your belt. It's time to get up there and actually do it. And Tony, we're watching. Don't listen to the loud assholes who are lambasting it because they're either, misogynist or completely racist or anything else. They are a minority in this group, and we want quality wrestling with good storylines for people of all genders. All of them. You have that ability. Make it happen. And that's as far as we're going to go with this, Mikey, because we have to finish the review. I also think we're going to clip that part. That's going to be one of our little short things. It's just this rant we went on for like 20 minutes. But God damn it.
You can tell that we're very passionate about professional wrestling. And
I'm not wearing my Abaddon shirt right now, and I should be. I love Simon Miller, but I should be wearing my Abaddon. Freaking bring Abaddon back. Put her... honestly, this is a whole sidebar. Something I like fantasy booking would love to see on Collision. Women's tag belts or not, a blind women's tag tournament, Julia Hart and Abaddon get paired. Please. And you have basically House of Black Witch and the Living Dead Girl as a tag team. Oh, shit.
Just Abaddon and House of Black in general would make me so happy.
Oh, my God.
All right.
I love House of Black are my favorites. But we're moving on. So we did that. Again, going back to the match itself, I felt for the 2 performers. I know Britt was dealing with a back injury, and I know it was people tuned out after that full on in the middle, like weird bit there. And I felt for both of them. They did the best they could. I give them props for being professionals, finishing the match and doing what they did there. I think the result was wrong, but I think they did okay. But they got it done.
I hope Britt a speedy recovery. Taya, I want my Miss Luetta Loca, my homegirl. I want her to pick up a victory at some point.
She needs to.
I was like, you brought her in, and I was excited, but I was just like, then I'm just based on what I've seen how they treated Taya so far, I'm just like, I don't think it's a downgrade because I think you were a tag team champion in Impact recently, Taya. I was like, maybe you should come back from the undead realm and then just be back with the Death Dolls because at least they were giving you. Impact treated you right. I don't know what the hell AEW is doing right now.
They're doing the same thing WWE did, which is wasting her completely. And whether that's because she's losing a step in the ring, 'cause she's a little bit older now, or not, I don't think so. She's leaning into her bruiser characteristics more than the lucha characteristics, and that's fine. But use her better.
Please. So we got
moving on to our final match of
Yep.
the night.
After some bumpers for Rampage and Collision and the 200th episode of Dynamite next week.
Could have cut all of that for a women's match, but anyways, yep.
Honestly, it was like 3 whole minutes. You could have done something. But anyways, your main event was I guess a triple threat tag team match between Claudio and Moxley for Blackpool Combat Club versus the Lucha Brothers versus Best Friends. So for those of you that don't watch Ring of Honor, honestly, really, this match spawned on Dynamite because of what ended up happening after the Fatal 4-Way and after Claudio's match at Death Before Dishonor. So there was problems with Lucha Bros and Best Friends because Lucha Brothers Penta hit Trent with a chair during the Fatal 4-Way. Also, shout out to Aussie Open, new tag champs. Hey.
So awesome. So awesome.
We'll talk about it on Ring of Honor.
They were one of the ones that were brought up to be part of the new Don Callis family as the tag team in there, which would be amazing.
I mean, might as well. Don has already associated himself with Will, so it would make a lot more sense. But we'll talk about that later. So that set up that portion, and then Lucha Brothers and Best Friends got involved after Claudio's match against Pac, because, Death Triangle is still a thing. God, I missed them on my television screen. Since that best of 7, both have been all... But, yeah, so this is where the match spawned from. I thought this was a fun match. Anytime we get to see brutality and lucha and violence is always a great time.
Yeah, and it was definitely played up a lot of the sports entertainment aspects of it, especially when the Lucha Brothers involved. They always go for that slow build and they build things up. Alex, the assistant, is ridiculous, and I love him to death. And take his shirt off more often. He is built, but my MVP of this match, honestly, was Trent. Trent was flying everywhere. He was taking big bumps back and forth. He was getting his butt kicked either way. But this was all building up, going around, very, very violent. Claudio doing a bunch of good big spots. Ray Fenix flying everywhere as well. The schmoz happened. There was just the tag klaxon went off at the beginning. There was no clear tags. It didn't really matter. They were all just there to beat each other up. Orange Cassidy comes down to try to save the day, distracts John Moxley. Moxley beats the living crap out of him. And then they ends up after a big backstabber and a couple things, I believe Penta pins Trent to win the match.
Yes.
And then the beatdowns happen.
So, okay, so the match itself was a lot of fun. I do agree that no real tags were happening, but it's fine because this was just out to kill each other, which I'm all here for.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was taken out of the storyline with just how chaotically messy the end to the go off the air brawl that happened, because I was like, okay, so everyone hates Blackpool Combat Club. That makes sense to me. But then all of a sudden, the Lucha Brothers then turn and start beating up Best Friends. And then I was just like, okay, I feel like this match, you guys settled your issues, but I guess not. It was just really messy. And then they kept fighting. And then I had to rewatch it a second time because I missed commentary announcing it that for next week, it's an anything goes between Penta and Trent and Mox next week on Dynamite. And I'm just like, that was lazy. I'm sorry. I was like, that was a mess. And then
I think it was personified, especially when the schmoz was happening. BCC started to run away, and they'd been hitting, Best Friends and the Lucha Brothers were beating them up. And Penta just turns and super kicks Trent in the face. And then Phoenix hits him. And so why are you fighting each other? You both hit the BCC and they're trying to escape. But no, we're beating them up. And it's just to set up a match the next week. Again, storylines that didn't need to happen when you could have set up a better. It just, oh my God.
See, AEW currently is having the same problem that I have seen in WWE right now, because you have your main storylines that are happening. So now that Blood and Guts is over, Blackpool Combat Club versus the Golden Elite is like done for a little bit, which was fun, but it ran its course, so we don't need to revisit it for a little bit. It seems that now we're I appreciate that we're getting different storylines, but they have so far the execution has been very messy. I mean, it looks to be that this new Don Callis family may be the next opponents for Kenny and the Elite, which I'm okay with because Kenny and Chris have history. Takeshita and Kenny. Takeshita versus Ibushi is something I want to see. Give it to me now in Wembley, please. Or at
my God, yeah.
By the way, it hurt me to not help Professor with his Blood and Guts review because he's like, I don't know who Ibushi is, and like my heart sank, and I'm just like, oh, you poor man. We need to get you like the quick history.
Well, and he watched him as worse too, because Ibushi came out and said this later, that the reason he was moving around, as he said, like an old man in the ring, was his ring gear, his boots were too thin, and he got glass in it to start with. So he's basically gingerly trying to walk around and do that, and then he threw himself in the tax afterwards. Like, he just wasn't prepared for it. He had been off for a while, so the Professor saw him not at his best.
No, but for us wrestling fanboys, I was like, ah!
Exactly.
My bisexual lovers are back on screen.
I love him so much.
I know. The Golden Lovers.
But to go back to this week's Dynamite,
messy.
They're having the same problem they've had for a couple weeks leading up to Blood and Guts, and after that too. John and I have agreed their end of shows is like a bad.
It's been so chaotic every single time. Like, everybody's got to get in and fight each other, or it's always some sort of brawl or some chaos that.
To set in improv terms, you are trying to get all of your stuff in at once that you've set up over the night, and it makes no sense. And it seems like early Attitude Era stuff too, where they would try to get everybody on the card at the end with a knockout brawl, where then Stone Cold would come out and stun everybody, and then you go home happy. But this,
you gotta let it breathe, because
or make a choice.
Exactly,
make a choice.
I'm like, just as much. Listen, I'm one of the few people. I'm like, I'm good if I don't see Moxley bleed for a little bit. Which, by the way, he didn't even bleed that much in Blood and Guts, and I was expecting him to. Like, what the? He bled so much more going into Blood and Guts than he did in actual Blood and Guts.
But he didn't bleed tonight.
I know.
I was good with.
Shocked.
But also, like, what is this? I'm a little taken aback. John Moxley is clean of blood. And
what bizarre world are we in?
It was a bizarre world. But overall, Mikey, we'll get to the end of this. So, end of review here. We give our reviews. We give a little bit of what we thought of the show, and we grade them like the teachers that you and the Professor are. What was your grade? What was your grade for the After Blood and Guts Dynamite that we had?
So the best way I could describe it is that I didn't think this was a horrible show, because I watched Monday Night Raw this week by myself.
I watched it too. I just wasn't reviewing it.
I know. Minnie owes me big time for having to review that garbage thing. God, but it wasn't as bad. I will say the best way I could describe this episode, it wasn't horrible. It was just kind of forgettable for me. Like, I know that we're turning the pivot point, because now we're starting to build towards All In and All Out and all of the other pay-per-views. No, Professor.
All Around, all expected.
No.
All together now.
You and Professor could take... You and Professor can take that idea and you could throw it into the lake, because I don't want AEW's pay-per-view all to begin with all. It is stupid.
All American Bash, All American Rejects, all dish detergent.
But this
keep going.
Oh my gosh, I hate you and I love you at the same time. But this was a kind of a forgettable episode. I thought there were some good bits to it. There's a lot of things that need to happen. I'm going to give it a little bit of grace since we're coming off of Blood and Guts, but I'm just going to give this like a solid maybe 6.5 out of 10. Okay. I didn't think anything was inherently bad, minus the booking of the women's division, but we said our piece on that. But I give it a 6.5. Like, it wasn't inherently anything wrong with it. There were some fun bits, but it was just kind of forgettable.
All right, I agree with you on that one. So, Mikey, for me, whoa, we just lost some stuff there. But Mikey, my grade for this going forward. So this would have been a solid B-, like, around a 6 out of 10 for me. Started off really strong. My match of the night. Had a couple of good matches in between. Really slow pacing, though. The promos took me out of it. I am stating now on these reviews going forward, until TK addresses what the hell is going on with the women's division, they're losing a letter grade every time. This was going to be a solid B-. We're down to a C-, almost a D, because of what's been going on. And that has nothing to do with the match quality of the women's match. That has nothing to do with the match quality of the other matches. This is becoming a problem. Or it's been a problem. It is a problem. And I cannot, in good faith, give a good review to Dynamite until they basically work as a cohesive unit, as a cast, and lift everybody up. So, Tony Khan, I know it matters to you what the Bi-Conics think of you. I know that we are the only thing that drives your decisions. You want better grades? Fix your fucking women's department. Fix it. Now. Mikey, this has been a pleasure having you along. I enjoy having the original Dynamite and Dynamic duo together on the Bi-Conics. You are so amazing, but I do miss the professor. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But for Mikey, for JVL, check the Bi-Conics out on all the socials, on BC Wrestle Pod, on YouTube, which is probably where you see it. Like, share, talk about us, get people involved, get them to send stuff into us that they want us to do. We'd love to hear from you. But for Mikey, for JVL, this has been the Dynamite Duo Review, and we'll see you in the next town.